It's finally time. Predecessor is coming to PlayStation. Closed beta December 5th to January 5th. It's me, Omeda Papaya, and I'm here to try and give you guys a quick rundown guide for Predecessor to make sure you are prepared to join me and follow Pred players in Predecessor. Keep Omeda City in your website bookmarks. It's an insanely great tool to see your estimated ELO, your stats, builds, and more. I use it daily to help improve my gameplay, and the devs of Omeda City do a fantastic job keeping the players looped in with their public Discord and feedback section. Big shout out to Core and Correcta for making Omeda City. It's my favorite website. I use it every single day. Highly recommend it. So let us take a look at the main menu. So in the main menu, first thing I want to show you guys is press escape or whatever the start button is, and I want you to go into settings. Inside settings is where you're going to see a lot of the gameplay. You can modify HUD, adjust your skills to instacast or skill bait, or what is it? Here you go. Instacast, quick cast, normal cast, and then default cast. Honestly, I guess that is whatever the devs decided on being the default. Super important in terms of Moba players. This way you can instantly cast abilities instead of having delays. As you improve, you know, some skills honestly work better with instant cast, but play around with these in the practice mode. These are super important in terms of wanting to get competitive, wanting to increase rank, and just to honestly have a more enjoyable experience, right? And then some UI stuff here, so game hints, where the health bars are, do you see damage numbers, you know, some pretty good stuff in here, and then of course your other settings. And then this is also you switch your region, so NA East, Europe, West, and then C. And we'll take a look at for the more casual players and everyone, of course. In here you got the heroes. Countess, this is with the Affinity, so this is the content for the game currently. You got the free version, which gives you the Mastery or Prestige skin at level 7. Then you got the paid version. The paid version will give you an extra 30% Affinity boost too, and it costs $5 per character in order to get the boost and to unlock all these things. You get some cool looking emotes, crowns. Very nice. You also got the item list, which, I mean, it's nice and it looks clean, but I'd look at Omeda City. Omeda City is going to have the best item list. You're going to see what builds into Tempest, you know, and whatnot. So I would avoid the item list here unless it's like a very quick check just to see what the full item stats are. And then on the right side is where you get your friend list. So here I have someone who's added me. So here you get to see your friend list, and this is how you can invite people to your party. When it comes to adding, I'm not sure what the buttons are exactly, but this looks like they have a add button here. Able to get the friend code. So save your friend code, send that to your friends. That's how you invite people. And I assume since it's going to be cross-platform, you know, this is how the invites are going to be. I don't think you can invite through Steam for PC players directly. I think everything's going to work directly from friend code. The game's going to be its own separate entity, except for the names, I guess, because you can't change your name on Steam and Epic. And then another thing is if you want to do custom, or these are the game modes overall. So you got your practice, tutorial, your AIs, and then your PvP. And then if you do customs, if you want to play with friends, you can only do 5v5s on here, unfortunately. But it's good for in-houses, good for scrims, and this is where all that stuff is done. You would just enter some sort of key, confirm, and then press play. And then if two groups have the key put in, they'll get into a game. But there's no rewards or anything like that on customs, so that's what that is. And then you also have the replay system, which is super cool for taking snapshots and whatnot. You know, recording yourself, seeing what you did, how you could have improved. You can watch your friends. And you can also, using Omeda City, if you go in and get the replay ID, so when you click on a game, on the top there'll be like a camera icon. I think clicking it, I don't think it copies the ID, but you can highlight around it. Just make sure the dashes aren't there. so that way you're able to actually see it. There's no dashes. Hopefully Omeda City can fix that if they have not already, and quickly enter the replay ID. And that seems to be it for what I would say is the most important thing in the main menu for beta and early access. Definitely take a look and see what there is. Alright guys, before we get into the game, I gotta show you guys the map, explain it to you so you guys are prepared to completely dominate those new PlayStation players that have not watched this video. So here we go, we got the Predecessor map. In Pred, there's 3 lanes, 5 roles. You got your mid lane, jungle, duo lane, off lane. The duo consists of the support and the carry. You guys might know it as the ADC from League, and I'm not necessarily too sure on Smite, but let's discuss on the map. So when we spawn in, you're basically going to be what the blue side is. The map will be on the top right. So you got to protect the core just like any other MOBA. That's your entire goal. Let's start from the beginning. You got your tier 1 tower, then you got a tier 2 tower, your inhibitor, and then your core. Your tier 1 is going to have defenses up, I think, until 7-8 minutes, and then the defenses will start dropping. That's the one thing that I couldn't get too much information on, that they didn't have enough information to get given from Omeda. So, you know, but it is going to give defenses. So just like League, there is no plate system, but your tower isn't going to be your main focus, right? But tier 2 is basically just a regular tower as well, you know. Inhibitor, I don't necessarily think it's necessarily stronger, but when you do destroy inhibitor, you get super minion spawns. So, you know, of course, in older MOBAs, definitely the goal. And then your core, which is your end game. So inside the jungle, you got the 2 major buffs. Prime, which is like Baron Nashor if you ever played League of Legends, and Fang is like Dragon. Then on the left and right of mid lane, you got the 2 river buffs. Quickly close Pred. Oh, that's it. Alright, on the left side, you have Cyan buff, which is for the offlane role. Here I have some information on... So I'm going to put this Excel, of course, in the video, so you guys will be able to access this and how I described it and whatnot. Let's see. So here, Cyan buff gives XP, gold, healing, and mana regen. It's pretty strong. At the same time, don't be afraid if your jungle takes it. It's better for you or your jungler to get it than the enemy to get it, as it is, of course, open to everybody. On the right side, on duo side, you got gold buff. Gold buff is going to give you, will give the carry, you know, once again, the jungle can take it as well if there's a lot of pressure. It's just going to mainly give you gold and some XP. Not too crazy to take, but hey, if you are pushed up or whatnot, it's definitely worth, you know, using gold to initiate fights, take if there's nothing else to do, you know. So that's for the dual lane. Now we'll look more into jungle. So you do have red and blue buff. It's similar to League if you've come from that. Blue buff is going to give you mana regen. Red buff is going to give you dots. And I'm not sure if it gives you a speed per se, but it is the most popular buff in lane. So a lot of people are that's gonna usually be the first camp that they're gonna start at. Also, leashing is not very popular in Predecessor. You do not get leashes. And then each gray dot that I labeled a number, that's the amount of monsters that are there. So you call 2 camp, 3 camp, 4 camp, and 5 camp. I do have a list below that does show like kind of what the XP rate is and what you want. I do think it's slightly outdated. Once again, I'm trying to get all this information. Omeda doesn't really do a good job in terms of giving information out. So I'm trying to give as much of the new players as much information as they can get, but they still it's still accurate in terms of which one is providing the most XP kind of thing. I think the only effect is HP bars and whatnot. So to simplify it, 5 and 3 are the best for gold. 2 and 4 are the best for XP. I believe that is basically what the map overall looks like until you get into the game. So there's that. Let's discuss the roles real quick. So mid lane, it's usually full of casters, the mages, the magic power is the main focus there. The meta is a little bit shifted. Hopefully with PlayStation, maybe we get more of a player base, more balance, and the meta can kind of shift. The meta currently is big on the whole CC, tanks, and the ADC. So a lot of just straight damage right now, like straight damage and things to counter straight damage, which is hard CC and tanks. Um, so jungle, CC, assassins, tanks, and they focus on the objective control and ganks. Dual lane, which is a support and ADC carry. Support tends to be CC, peel, engages, and the carry usually range, consistent damage, late game scaling. Off lane, tanks, CC, split pushing. So that's basically what it is. A little bit of an issue here. And that's it for basically the 3 roles. Of course, when you do get into the game, you can click on the roles on the top, which I do go over on the bottom, as they'll kind of guide new players into what characters are what until you get into the overall meta, the meta switches and whatnot, which probably the new player won't experience or play with those people. Hopefully there's some better matchmaking balance for you guys. So yeah, here's a little bit more information on the jungle camps that you guys can use the sheet for, explaining kind of the best camps, the type of river buffs there are. So some quick tips on river buff. It spawns at 3 minutes and then every odd number. So 3 minutes, then 5, 7, 9. Usually takes 1 to 2 hits to kill. Late game, early game it can take 3 depending on your mid laner and what ability you use on it, as it is a very important buff and pretty quick access to get, right? So on it you can get black or gray, which is the movement speed buff, pink and purple, which is the ability damage buff, which is damage to abilities, not magic power. So any ability will do more damage when you get a pink or purple buff. Green buff will give you a shield. Orange will give you an attack speed buff. And here we got mini prime buff. It lasts till 1945 and can respawn every 5 minutes if taken early. It gives a person who gets the last hit prime buff, which buffs minion damage and defense stats. Good for taking towers. Doesn't give passive health like the real prime buff. So prime buff, which is extremely strong, the strongest buff in the game, next to primal, it depends. But it spawns at 20 minutes and it lasts 2 minutes and 30 seconds depending on if you have Fangtooth or not. As Fangtooth gives bonuses, which we'll discuss right under. Basically gives you what Mini does, but it gives you passive healing for the entire team. This buff is for everyone on the team that is alive at the moment. So Fangtooth, which is the equivalent of Dragon, Prime buff is equivalent of Baron from League, and Fangtooth is equivalent of Dragon, or I should say Old Dragon, as Dragon has definitely changed a lot in League. So it spawns at 5 minutes, and it gives up to 3 buffs. The first buff is jungle and river buffs will last 50% longer, hence why it'll increase the prime buff. Second buff is 8% out of combat movement speed, and third buff, 8% physical power, magic power, both types of armors will be increased. And after 3 fangs, Primal Fang will spawn, and that gives you temporary on-hit true damage, like Elder Drake from League of Legends. I'm not going to go too much in terms of strategy. We just want to go over the overall basics. Strategy and all that stuff will be discussed in future videos. I'll try to make guides on that. So that's overall with what you'll see on the map. Of the core things that you're going to need to know. So first on, you're going to select a role. You guys pick it. You can select the same role as anyone else. You get a 50-50 it. You can quarter it, all about that. So when you get into the game, you have your picks. In here, you can select the leftmost is going to be your overall all heroes, your off-lane heroes, mid-lane heroes, jungle heroes, support heroes, and our carry heroes. Alright, so when you first load in, you're going to be asked to select a crest. So these crests, you have, I believe, 8 crests total, and these crests kind of act like your only active item. So basically I have like 2 that fits ADCs, 2 that fits tanks, 2 that fits fighters, 2 that fits mages. And you basically would select one. I'm not going to go too much in depth, but that's basically what the crests are themselves right now. So you can check out Omeda City to see exactly what they do. Some are more aggressive, some are less defensive, more defensive and whatnot. So it does bring a lot of variety to the game, and it depends on the enemy characters that you have. So let's say we select a crest, we'll pick up, because I'm playing Wraith, always go Assassin's Crest, but and then when you come in and you accept, now you open up the shop. The first 2 things, make sure these 2 things are not open, right? You want to do your own builds. You know, you don't want to follow any recommendations. The auto open will open as you walk in and out, so if you're losing the game and you have to quickly walk in and out to heal, it'll keep opening up and it's really annoying. But you got your filters here. You can click on them to select what items you're specifically looking for. The most important one that a lot of people don't realize in the beginning is that there's a vision tab here. In the vision tab, you can see the stealth ward, which is just they're basically just posts you place and they give you a vision. You can see on the description here exactly what they do. Once again, we won't go too in depth with them. Then you can also get the sentry, and the sentry, this is mostly picked up by the jungler. So usually laners 99% will go stealth ward and the jungler will go sentry ward. And there's some tips and tricks that you would do to kind of have to min and max how you use your stealth ward and how you use your sentry. Once again, not going to go too much in depth with that, but that's what that is. So once you decide your items, the whole leveling system for this game is the same as League of Legends. It's level 1 through 18, level 6, level 11, and level 16 is when you get your ultimate levels. To level right above where it says R for me, and it's below the center of the screen above the health bar. When you get a level up, there should be a thing that tells you what button you need to press, because I'm not so sure what console is. You would hold that button and it'll give you kind of an entire, like a quick read or a quick amount of information just to see like what it scales. So in this case, if I look at Peekaboo and I see that it says deals 60 sword damage. Sword is being physical damage. On the very bottom on Knock Knock, you can see it has a sword and a lightning bolt. Lightning bolt is magic power damage. So those are just the 2 levels of scaling that are in this game. And of course there's pen and there's shred. And we'll go further, go more into it in a different video. But to level anything up, it's just you hold that button, you would press whatever button key it would be to level up the skill. And then you start off and you have these 2 jump pads. These start off in the beginning. You go on them and they'll basically land you over here. And then one quick thing that's super important is learning the commands. This is how you do commands. This is how you can also do an emote if you do have it unlocked. But some really quick fast ones that everyone should know is the alerts. So alert missings, so it's right, up, and then you get to pick which ones you want to put as missing. And then right gives you retreat. Notify, so then go left, right gives you a good job, and you want to really be toxic and your teammates do something so good, you gotta be very aggressive with them, you know. I'll say good job to them, or good job on that garbage play you made. So let's take a quick look on just the active keys that you do have. So your 1 button is going to be your health pots. Health pots are default by everyone. The only thing that replaces health pots is if you pick jungler in role select, you will have hunt instead, which is basically like your League of Legends smite. It helps you get jungle camps faster, you know. It's strictly jungle based. Your 2 is going to be your active crest. You have to level up your crest twice in order to actually be able to use it, which it would then ask you at the store when you do unlock it. Your 3 is your ward placement. So Wraith has a shootable wards. Otherwise, you would just place a ward down on the ground and wait for it to respawn. And then you're also given a blink. So every character has a blink, which is, for us, it's the 4 key. So it would basically allow you to kind of get some distance. You can't necessarily go through anything, so be very picky. So like this tiny bit amount of wall, for example, if I was to blink right here, I would just get stopped. I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't go over here. It's not like League of Legends. You're able to really get some, going through objects and whatnot. So this is the stealth mechanic that Predecessor has. So similar to bushes, sort of. It's called fog walls. So fog walls, basically you can't see anything on the other side of this. So if I want to see them, I have to throw a ward down, and then I'll be able to see them. So for example, Gadget right now, she wouldn't be able to see me. It's an AI bot, so I'm not inting or anything right now. That's for later today. That's what the stealth walls are. They're kind of put out throughout the entire map. Basically all the jungle is surrounded by them in terms of the outsides. Once you get inside the jungle, there isn't any stealth walls here, so that's a make good use of them, as they are very good for setting up ganks and positioning your character properly. So here's a quick general guide for warding. I don't want to go too far in depth with it, as it is there's of course many places you can ward and be aggressive, but as a newer player you want to play safe, focus on the gold, and then wait until mid to late game to really start initiating fights on your objectives, right? So the green is your safe positions, is when you want to play safer. Doesn't mean you're getting necessarily pushed up, but you just care about having a lot of pressure, or you're getting pressured or whatnot. These are just safe general locations to put wards for all lanes. Put the blue line for the fog walls to give an idea here, and then some aggressive warding locations. That way you're able to get vision of the jungler before they come to you. So here we have a little bit laning tips. So minions spawn at 1 minute, and then they spawn every 30 seconds after that, and then at 2 minutes the first cannon minion spawn, which will spawn every 90 seconds. Each lane has a tier 1 and tier 2 inhib, and then leads up to the core, which is listed above. Tier 1 will have increased armor for a set amount of time. I think it's up to 7 or 8 minutes, but I can't 100% confirm it. If you are in tower range, which is the metal plate, and you have no minions or hit the enemy, you will get damage and will increase per hit. And then some skills can de-aggro. Don't want to stay in tower too long. So inhibitors, when destroyed, will unlock super minions, which will cause 1 minion per wave for a set amount of time to be a super minion. It'll make them more tankier, do more damage, and it also gives you more gold. Be aware that when an inhib does respawn, I think it takes 3 to 5 minutes. Once again, I don't have the exact numbers, unfortunately, on that. But when they do respawn, they're not aggro anymore. You can come up and destroy an inhib, and it won't do any damage without any minions. So that's something to keep note of, is that inhibs do not respawn. They don't become aggressive when they respawn after getting destroyed once. So gold experience is super important. You get both of them from farms, kills, assists, objectives, which include towers and camps. They're super important. You need both of them. You can't win with just gold. You can't win with just experience. But it is worth losing gold to get experience if you are in a losing lane. That is super important, is maintaining levels. That is the most important thing when it comes to you losing a lane. Alright, so I'm not a jungle person myself, especially if you may have seen one of my gameplays on Soul Reaper's channel. Alright, I may have gotten a little beat up there. But I can give a few tips that definitely can help out beginners. So a little bit of jungle tips here. So jungles mostly start off in red 99% of the time. It is so rare to see blue, but a lot of times they'll look into invading with blue. So that goes to the next tip, which is start with the sentry ward. ward the blue buff at 1:05 game timer, then go back and switch out to sentry so you can check for invades. This is your blue buff. So you're still gonna start red buff, but you put a ward on the blue buff, so that way you use up a ward for free, and then you're able to take a red buff, and then you can still see your blue buff in case they decide on doing an invade on you. It's a very nice tip to know, because it does help you out in case they do an invade. So Hunt has 2 charges, so try your best not to hold the 2 charges constantly. Using Hunt lets you clear a lot quicker, so that way you can start trying to take more objectives or start looking at ganks. You only, try to keep 1 Hunt up majority of the time, but of course you need to pay attention to the main jungle objectives, being Fangtooth and Prime, and maybe even river buff. You want to completely annihilate that mid lane, and steal their river buff with a smite or a Hunt. So Hunt does 500 damage to all jungle minions, to all jungle and minions. Once you kill 40 jungle minions, you the upgrade, so you'll get an upgrade which will do 1000 damage. So farming is key in the beginning. Ganks are of course extremely important, but that really is not your main goal, right? Your main focus as a jungler is farm and objective control. Ganking is of course important, but just because your laner is constantly asking for ganks, you can look into prioritizing them if they are good, but if they're losing, do not look into ganking losing lanes. Ganking losing lanes is not effective. Why would you help a lane that has, in reality, a chance to just keep feeding and feeding? You only need one lane to do really good to win the game, like that, so you want to prioritize winning lanes. Don't look at prioritizing a lot of the people that are always asking for ganks. They can ask, but if you're seeing them 0-2 and they're still asking for ganks, you got to tell them, hey, I can't, I can't trust in you right now. You got to play safer. Just focus on XP. Don't even stop inting, right? But yeah, your entire goal is to put pressure, gain prio, put pressure, and if you can, look into securing the kill, right? And now I'm a mid laner, and one of the most aggravating things is river buff for me. It is nice to have a jungler look at helping at river buff, but I'm going to show some bias and say don't take my river buff. If I try, so a lot of times, right, because I'm a mid laner and I know that they're starting off, the enemy jungler is going to start red buff, I have a feeling that they're going to come and try to take my river buff, and that's going to be my left-sided river buff, which is my easier to access river buff. So I always try to actually not take that river and go for right lane river buff. A lot of times when I do that, my teammate, my jungler, is going to be going to that river buff, which will then cause an issue of who gets the river buff now. In my opinion, it's always a mid laner. If I'm able to get it, that provides me more mana to put more pressure. And that's how I think it overall that it should be. Or if the enemy mid laner, they might jump down there and then my jungle buff can get the kill or take a blink off of him. That's super good. So as a jungler, this is for both sides, it's not just for the jungler to know, right? But that's an idea, is you want to be careful going for that river buff, because there can be both junglers could be prioritizing it, and that can start a fight. You can use it as a bait to start a fight, but at the same time, try to prioritize it for your mid laner, not for the jungler, unless you absolutely have to. Alright, for everyone that has stayed watching the entire video, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it gave you a good amount of information. This was my first big major guide video, as I am completely new. I want to make this a pretty good hobby. I love Predecessor. I hope it succeeds and that it improves. And yeah, I hope the guide can help a lot of the new players that are coming in. I know it's not a guide that's based on strategy. I do hope to get more advanced in those type of things. I am a mid laner, so I wouldn't say expect jungle or anything. It would strictly be mid laner based characters and whatnot. I do have a Gideon guide that's been in the works, and I do think it's overall finalized, and now I need to just do the recording of it. But yeah, you can check out a lot of my other videos for actual gameplay and how I play, and then ways to improve off of that. And I tend to play pretty well, pretty competitively as a mid laner. So yeah, if you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as I try to release a lot of videos, every week. And I try to stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time, multi-stream, about every single day. But please let me know what you think of the video in the description. It is my first one, so I want to hear a bunch of things that I could focus on better. Maybe it just sucks and you just want to tell me that I'm complete, that this was a waste of time, and maybe it was. All right, but we'll see. We'll try to cook off of that. But thanks for stopping by and watching the video. And on that note, good luck. Enjoy the Predecessor closed beta or the game in general. Maybe this is watched in a year. And yeah, hopefully all is good. I'll catch y'all. Take it easy. Peace.